I'm Mason Carter, 32 years old and dead tired after driving through a Colorado blizzard to surprise my family for Christmas. The house was eerily quiet when I arrived, no decorations. No lights, just darkness and silence. I found Grandma Irene alone in the kitchen, slowly eating cold leftover casserole. On the counter sat a note in my mother's handwriting. Spent your $10. 500 loan on a family cruise. Take care of her. My stomach dropped. Grandma looked up, determination in her eyes. We'll fix this, Mason, she said firmly. I just nodded, not knowing what else to say. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to hear more stories about family betrayal and sweet revenge. I stood in the kitchen, reading the note over and over, trying to make sense of it. That $10,500 wasn't just any money. After 3 loan rejections, First Denver Bank had finally approved my small business loan to expand Carter Construction. I'd been running my contracting company for 6 years, and this was my chance to finally hire more staff and take on bigger projects. My relationship with my family had always been complicated but ultimately loving, or so I thought. My grandmother Irene practically raised me when my mother Patricia struggled with severe postpartum depression. Dad was always working, trying to make ends meet with his sales job. As the oldest of 3, I started working odd jobs at 14 to help with household expenses. My siblings Logan and Brianna never had to worry about that burden. The drive home from Boulder had been treacherous. Heavy snow reduced visibility to mere feet, but I'd pushed through, excited to surprise my family for Christmas. I hadn't been home in months, busy establishing my business. The last time we spoke, Mom had complained about not having enough money for Christmas presents. I'd promised I'd make it home and bring gifts for everyone. But something was wrong the moment I pulled into the driveway. No Christmas lights adorned our house, unlike every neighbor's home on the street. The driveway was empty except for Grandma's old Buick. No sign of Dad's truck or Mom's sedan. Grandma? I called out, entering the dark house. Anyone home? I found her in the kitchen, wearing the same cardigan and slacks I'd seen in our video call 2 days ago. Mason, she said, her voice revealing both relief and distress. I didn't expect you until tomorrow. I wanted to surprise everyone. I glanced around the kitchen. Where is everyone? That's when she pointed to the note on the counter, the one that would change everything. I read it again. Mason, use your loan money for a Caribbean cruise. We deserved a vacation after everything we've done for the family. Take care of Grandma. Back January 2nd. Merry Christmas! Mom, Dad, Logan, Brianna, and their partners. This can't be right, I whispered, pulling out my phone to call my mother. Straight to voicemail. Same with Dad, Logan, and Brianna. With shaking hands, I opened my banking app. The loan had been deposited a week ago. 2 days later, a withdrawal of $10,478 had been made in person at my bank branch. They had left me with $22. When did they leave? I asked Grandma, feeling physically ill. 3 days ago, she replied, pushing her plate away. They were so excited. Your mother said it was a Christmas miracle that they could afford this trip. She knew that was my business loan money. I told everyone it had finally been approved. Grandma nodded sadly. She said you wouldn't mind since it's for family? I sank into a chair, my mind racing. Did they at least leave food? Why aren't there any Christmas decorations? They were in a rush. Said they'd decorate when they get back for New Year's. Grandma looked around the kitchen. There's some leftovers in the fridge. This casserole and half a loaf of bread. My phone dinged with a notification. A credit card charge from Royal Caribbean Cruises for $287. Another notification. Shore excursion package for $349. They're still spending money, I realized aloud. Grandma hesitated before adding, They didn't invite me. Patricia said I would ruin the fun with my bad hip and medication schedule. I looked at my grandmother, 78 years old. Abandoned over Christmas, left with barely any food. The woman who had raised me when my own mother couldn't. Did they at least leave your medications? I asked. Most of them. I'm out of my blood pressure pills, though. The pharmacy is closed until the day after Christmas. I felt a sickening realization as another piece of the puzzle fell into place. Grandma. Did they buy me any Christmas presents before they left? They kept asking what I wanted. Grandma looked away. Patricia said they canceled your gifts to pay for some excursions on the islands. They said you'd understand since you're doing so well with your business. The business that now had no expansion capital. The business that would face loan repayment starting in 30 days regardless of where the money went. As night fell on Christmas Eve, the reality of our situation sank in. My family had stolen my business loan, abandoned my grandmother, and left us both without food or Christmas celebration, all while sailing around the Caribbean posting selfies from the pool deck. Christmas Eve dinner consisted of takeout Chinese food, the only restaurant open in town. I watched Grandma pick at her sweet and sour chicken. Both of us sitting at the kitchen table under the harsh fluorescent light, no Christmas tree, no decorations, just the sound of the old refrigerator humming in the background. Remember when I used to deliver newspapers? I asked, trying to fill the silence. Waking up at 4:30 every morning before school. Grandma nodded. You were just 15. You bought Logan his first gaming system that Christmas. And when I worked at the grocery store during high school, I gave most of my paychecks to Mom and Dad for household expenses. You've always been the responsible one, Mason, Grandma said, putting down her fork. Maybe too responsible. I thought about all the times I'd put my family first, delaying college to work full-time when Dad was laid off, co-signing for Brianna's car loan, helping Logan with rent when he forgot to pay. I'd always been the family's safety net. There's something you should know, Grandma said quietly. Patricia and Wallace have been taking most of my Social Security checks for years. I stared at her in disbelief. What? But you said that money covered your medications and groceries. That's what they told everyone. But they take almost all of it for household expenses. I get to keep about $200 a month for myself. When I ask about the rest, Patricia says they need it more than I do since I live with them rent-free. My grandmother had moved in with my parents after Grandpa died 10 years ago. We all thought it was to help her with daily living. Now I wondered who was really helping whom. Let me see their credit card statements, I said, knowing where Mom kept the financial records. In the home office, I found stacks of bills, many unopened. Credit card statements showed balances near their limits. Luxury purchases, restaurants, electronics. One credit card had my name on it. I never opened this account, I said, showing Grandma. That's from when you were in college. They said they needed to establish your credit history. I checked the account history. Active for 9 years, consistently maxed out. Minimum payments made just in time to avoid default. All in my name, destroying my credit score for years without my knowledge. It explained why my first business loan applications had been rejected. As we dug deeper into the family finances, more disturbing patterns emerged. My parents had borrowed money from several relatives, claiming it was to invest in my construction business. None of that money had ever reached me. Why didn't anyone tell me? I asked. They said you were too busy with your company. That you didn't want to be bothered with family problems. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. There they were, my entire family posting from their cruise. Mom in a sundress by the pool. Dad with a cocktail. Logan and Brianna with their partners at the ship's casino. Hashtags like hashtag best Christmas ever and hashtag we deserve this accompanied every photo. In one photo, my mother wore a new diamond bracelet. Early Christmas gift from the family fund. Read the caption. The family fund that was actually my business loan. Mason, Grandma said hesitantly. There's more. I haven't been to a doctor in 8 months. What? Why not? No one has time to take me. When I mention my appointments, Patricia says she's too busy or that I'm being dramatic about my health. What about your arthritis? Your heart condition? I've been rationing my medications, taking them every other day to make them last longer. I called the bank's emergency line, explaining my situation. The representative was sympathetic but firm. Mr. Carter, the money was withdrawn by someone with proper identification and account access. That would be my mother. I added her as an authorized user so she could deposit checks for me when I was out on job sites. I'm sorry, but this is considered authorized use of funds. However, misuse of a business loan is a serious matter. The funds were approved specifically for business expansion, not personal expenses. What happens now? You're still responsible for repayment according to the original terms. If the bank learns that loan funds were misappropriated for personal use, it could trigger an investigation and possible legal consequences. After I hung up, Grandma reached for my hand across the table. They'll be at sea for 4 more days, she said. Let's use that time wisely. I barely slept that night, tossing and turning on the living room sofa. My childhood bedroom had apparently been converted to a storage space for my mother's online shopping purchases. Christmas morning arrived with no presents, no family traditions. Just the crushing weight of betrayal and financial ruin. My first instinct was pure rage. I wanted to call the cruise line, report my family for theft, have them arrested when they docked at the next port. I wanted to change the locks, throw their belongings on the lawn, and cut them out of my life forever. Grandma found me pacing the kitchen at 6 a.m., already on my 3rd cup of coffee. Slow down, Mason, she said, wrapping her cardigan tighter around her small frame. Strategic thinking beats emotional reactions every time. They stole from me, Grandma. They left you here alone. They've been taking advantage of both of us for years. And they'll face consequences, she said firmly. But if you act purely from anger, you'll make mistakes. I took a deep breath, knowing she was right. Okay. What do we do? My first call was to Reed Thompson, a friend from college who'd become a lawyer. He agreed to meet us later that day, despite it being Christmas. Document everything. Reed advised when he arrived. Bank statements, credit cards in your name you didn't authorize, social media posts showing them spending the money. We need to establish a clear pattern of financial abuse. What about the loan? I asked. That's tricky. Since your mother was an authorized user, it's not technically theft in the eyes of the bank. But it is misappropriation of business funds, which violates the loan terms. And if they've been opening credit accounts in your name without consent, that's identity theft. While Reed examined the financial documents, I discovered more troubling evidence around the house. Bills marked "Final Notice," tucked into drawers. The thermostat set to 60 degrees to save on heating costs, explaining why Grandma wore layers indoors. The refrigerator contained nothing but condiments and the leftover casserole. The pantry held a few cans of soup and some stale crackers. Have you been eating properly, Grandma? I asked, feeling sick with worry. I manage, she said evasively. Your mother says groceries are too expensive these days. I checked the household account statements. Plenty of money spent at restaurants, liquor stores, and department stores. Almost nothing on groceries for the past month. While Grandma rested, I fixed things around the house that had clearly been neglected: the leaking bathroom faucet, the loose railing on the back steps, the burned-out light fixtures. Basic maintenance that would have taken my father minutes to address as a fellow contractor, but he'd chosen to ignore. That evening, Grandma and I sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad, planning our response. We need to be ready when they return, I said. They'll have excuses, they'll try to minimize what they did. They'll try to make us feel guilty for being upset. Grandma added knowingly. We need leverage. I said, thinking aloud. Something that will force them to make this right. Grandma was quiet for a moment, then said, Mason, there's something I haven't told anyone. I have money saved. What do you mean? After your grandfather died, I didn't trust Patricia with his life insurance money. I've been keeping it in a separate account. Almost $30,000. I stared at her in shock. All this time? It was supposed to be for emergencies or to help with your college. But then you got scholarships and worked so hard. I kept it as my safety net. Patricia has no idea it exists. This revelation changed everything. Grandma wasn't as financially dependent as my parents had led everyone to believe. She had options. Over the next 2 days, we implemented our plan. I called my construction crews, explaining the situation to my most trusted employees. They were furious on my behalf and immediately offered to help. My foreman Jackson and his brother came over with tools to install new locks and security cameras around the house. Want us to be here when they get back? Jackson offered. For moral support? Definitely, I replied. The more witnesses, the better. I checked the cruise line's website, confirming my family would return on December 30th. Then, as if on cue, I received a text from Brianna. Hey bro! Having the best time. Can you pick us up from Denver International on the 30th? Flight lands at 3:45 p.m. THX. No mention of Christmas. No question about how Grandma was doing. Just the expectation that I would be at their service. We'll be ready for them, I told Grandma as we baked her famous Christmas cookies. A small attempt to salvage some holiday spirit. Yes, she said, her eyes showing a strength I hadn't fully appreciated before. We certainly will. Denver International Airport was crowded with post-Christmas travelers when I arrived to pick up my family. I stood at baggage claim, watching as they emerged from the secure area. Tanned and smiling, laden with duty-free shopping bags. My mother spotted me first. Mason! What a surprise! We thought you'd send Jackson or one of your workers. She attempted to hug me, but I stepped back slightly, maintaining my composure. How's business? My father asked casually, as if we were having a normal conversation. We have a lot to discuss, I replied evenly. Let's get your bags. The casual chatter continued as we loaded their numerous suitcases into my truck. My siblings and their partners, Logan with his girlfriend Tasha, Brianna with her boyfriend Derek, were glued to their phones, showing each other photos from the trip. Oh, Mason, it was magical! My mother gushed from the passenger seat as we drove. The water was so blue, and the service on the ship was incredible. They treated us like royalty. The food was amazing, Logan added. All you can eat everything, all day long. And the shopping! Brianna chimed in. I got the cutest dresses. Wait till you see them. No one asked about my Christmas. No one mentioned Grandma. How is the old lady? My father finally asked as we turned onto our street, almost as an afterthought. Grandma is fine, I said. No thanks to any of you. That silenced the car momentarily before my mother forced a laugh. Don't be dramatic, Mason. She's perfectly capable of being alone for a few days. As we pulled into the driveway, my father frowned. What happened to the garage door? Why is it a different color? I had it replaced, I said simply. The old one was rotting at the bottom. They piled out of the truck, stretching and yawning, seemingly oblivious to the tension radiating from me. My father approached the front door, key in hand, only to find it wouldn't turn. What the hell? He muttered, jiggling the key. That's when the front door opened to reveal Grandma standing in the doorway, straight-backed and resolute. I moved to stand beside her. Welcome back, she said coolly. Mom? What's going on? Why doesn't my key work? My father demanded. Because I changed the locks, I answered. You can come in, but your luggage stays outside for now. This is ridiculous. My mother scoffed. Wallace, tell him this is our house. Actually, I said, the house is in Grandma's name. Has been since Grandpa died. She's allowing me to make decisions about who enters and under what conditions. Their sunburned faces paled slightly as they processed this information. Reluctantly, they entered without their bags, finding Reed and Jackson sitting in the living room. 2 other construction workers stood quietly in the corner, arms crossed. What is this, an intervention? Logan laughed nervously. Sit down, I said, gesturing to the sofa. All of you. Now wait just a minute. My father began, puffing up his chest. I don't know what kind of stunt you're pulling, but this is still my house. And I won't be ordered around in it. Wallace. Grandma interrupted sharply. Sit down before you embarrass yourself further. Something in her tone made him comply. They all sat, suddenly looking less like vacationers and more like scolded children. I placed a folder on the coffee table. Let's review what happened. You took my business loan of $10. $500 without my permission to fund a Caribbean cruise. You abandoned Grandma over Christmas with inadequate food and medication. You've been using her Social Security checks while neglecting her medical needs. And you've been committing identity theft by opening credit accounts in my name. That's not fair. My mother protested. We work hard. We deserved a vacation. A vacation you paid for with money that wasn't yours. I countered, opening the folder to reveal bank statements, withdrawal slips with my mother's signature, and printouts of their social media posts. And these, I continued, placing printed screenshots on the table, are posts where you're literally bragging about spending my money. Thanks to the family fund for my new bracelet, Mom. The family fund was my business loan. We were going to pay you back. My father insisted. With what money? You're already maxed out on credit cards, behind on bills, and the house needs repairs you've been ignoring. Logan leaned forward. Look, bro. You're making a big deal out of nothing. It's just money. Family helps family. Is that what you call abandoning Grandma at Christmas? Help? Brianna at least had the decency to look ashamed. We thought she'd be fine for a few days. Mom said you'd be coming to check on her. They didn't tell you I was coming, Grandma said. They didn't know I'd be alone. They didn't care. My mother's face hardened. That's not fair, Mom. You're always complaining about your health. We needed a break from the constant neediness. The room fell silent at her cruel words. Neediness? I repeated incredulously. She has arthritis, heart disease, and high blood pressure. Conditions that require consistent medication that you've been making her ration. While you're buying diamond bracelets and going on cruises. Reed cleared his throat. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, I should inform you that what you've done constitutes several potential criminal offenses. The identity theft alone carries significant penalties. The misappropriation of business loan funds could trigger an investigation by banking regulators. My father's face reddened. Are you threatening us? Your own family? I'm telling you the reality of the situation, I replied calmly. But I'm also offering a solution that keeps this out of court. This is ridiculous. My mother stood up. We're your parents. We raised you. You owe us respect. Respect is earned, Grandma said quietly. And you've lost it. All of you. I can't believe you're turning our son against us, my father said to her. After everything we've done for you. Grandma laughed, actually laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in years. Done for me? You've been living in my house, taking my money, and neglecting my health. What exactly have you done for me, Wallace? My siblings looked between our parents and grandmother, seemingly seeing this dynamic for the first time. Is that true? Brianna asked. Have you been taking Grandma's money? It's complicated, my mother hedged. We manage the household finances. Everyone contributes. By contributions, she means I surrender my social security check while being told groceries are too expensive to buy food I can eat with my dentures. Grandma said bluntly. The family facade was cracking. Logan looked uncertain for the first time, while Brianna moved slightly away from our parents on the couch. What do you want from us? My father finally asked, his voice less confident. I want my money back, with interest, I said. I want Grandma treated with respect and proper care. And I want accountability for years of financial exploitation. Or what? My mother challenged. Reed handed her a document. Or Mr. Carter will file these charges, Mrs. Carter. Identity theft, elder abuse, and fraud for starters. My mother scanned the document, her face growing paler with each line. You wouldn't dare. It would tear this family apart. You already did that, I replied. When you decided your vacation was more important than my business and Grandma's well-being. For the first time, I saw genuine fear in my parents' eyes. The atmosphere in the living room was suffocating as my family realized the seriousness of their situation. My father, always quick with excuses, was uncharacteristically silent as he looked through the documents Reed had prepared. This is the repayment agreement, Reed explained professionally. It outlines how the $10,500, plus interest and damages, will be repaid to Mason. How are we supposed to pay this? My father finally asked. We don't have this kind of money. Actually, you do, I replied. You have watches, jewelry, electronics, and other luxury items that can be sold immediately. You have the cruise refund insurance you purchased, yes. I saw the policy in your email that's still linked to the family computer. And for the remainder, you'll work it off. Work it off? My mother repeated incredulously. What does that mean? It means you'll be working for Carter Construction, I said. Dad, you have contracting experience. You'll be on job sites. Mom, you have organizational skills. You'll be handling paperwork and scheduling. Logan and Brianna, you'll be doing whatever tasks need to be done, cleaning up sites, running errands, basic labor. Logan jumped to his feet. This is insane. I have my own job. Part-time at the gaming store, I corrected. Which doesn't pay enough for you to afford your apartment. Which is why I've been subsidizing your rent for the past year. He sat back down, shocked that I knew the secret. What about our partners? Brianna asked, gesturing to Tasha and Derek, who had been silent throughout the confrontation. They're not responsible for your actions, I said. They're free to leave or stay. But they should know what kind of family they're potentially joining. Derek shifted uncomfortably. I had no idea the cruise money came from your business loan, man. Brianna said it was a family fund everyone contributed to. Mason, be reasonable. My mother pleaded. We can't just drop everything and work for you. We have our own lives. You should have thought about that before stealing my loan, I replied without sympathy. Your other option is legal consequences. Reed has prepared everything needed to file charges. You'd send your own parents to jail? My father asked incredulously. You'd steal from your own son and abandon your elderly mother at Christmas? I countered. The standoff continued as my parents desperately looked for a way out. Brianna was the first to break. I'll sign the agreement, she said quietly. What you're asking is fair, considering what we did. Brianna, my mother gasped. Mom, look at these bank statements. Look at what we did to Grandma. Mason has every right to be furious with us. My father was still scanning the document, looking for loopholes. What's this about additional terms regarding your grandmother? That's the second part of the agreement, I explained. Grandma will be moving in with me in Boulder. You'll continue to pay the mortgage on this house, which, again, is in her name, but you'll be responsible for bringing it up to proper condition before any sale can be considered. You're taking Mom away from us? My father asked, feigning concern that had been noticeably absent when they left her alone at Christmas. I'm providing her with proper care and respect, I corrected. Something she hasn't received here. Grandma spoke up. This was my decision, Wallace. Mason didn't suggest it, I did. I've seen how you treat me when you think no one is watching. I won't spend my remaining years being treated like a burden. As if on cue, Jackson came in from outside. The truck is loaded with the first batch of items to sell. Designer bags, electronics, jewelry. Should fetch a few thousand at least. You went through our things? My mother shrieked. Just like you went through my bank account, I replied evenly. Reed handed my father a pen. You should sign now. Every hour you delay, more items will be removed for liquidation. This is theft, my father protested weakly. No, it's asset recovery, Reed corrected. And it's perfectly legal with your signature on this document acknowledging the debt. My parents whispered frantically to each other, while Logan looked increasingly isolated as he realized even Brianna wasn't on their side anymore. Fine. My father finally spat, snatching the pen. But this will destroy this family. You already tried to destroy my livelihood, I replied calmly. Consider this rebuilding from the ashes you created. One by one, they signed the agreement. First my father, then my mother. Her hand shaking with anger. Logan hesitated the longest but eventually signed when he realized he had no allies left. Effective immediately, you all work for Carter Construction, I announced once the signatures were in place. Dad and Logan, be at the Lakewood site tomorrow at 7 a.m. Mom and Brianna, report to the office at 8. Dress appropriately for work, not for show. And if we don't? Logan challenged, ever testing boundaries. Reed smiled thinly. Then the agreement is violated, and the legal proceedings begin immediately. As they signed, Jackson and his crew began bringing in more boxes from their luggage, souvenirs, duty-free purchases, new clothes with tags still attached. What are you doing with those? My mother demanded. Cataloging them for sale, Jackson replied matter-of-factly. As per the agreement you just signed. But those are our Christmas presents to ourselves. And they'll make a nice dent in the debt you owe, I said. Consider it the first payment. Reality was finally sinking in. There would be no escaping consequences this time. No manipulation that would save them. No guilt trip that would make me back down. When do we get our keys to the house? My father asked sullenly. You don't, I replied. You'll be given access when necessary, but the locks stay changed. You've proven you can't be trusted. Where are we supposed to sleep tonight? My mother asked, aghast. The house has 3 bedrooms. You can use them. But your access to the rest of the house will be limited and supervised. This is our home, my father protested. This is Grandma's home, I corrected. And you're lucky she's allowing you to stay at all. As the full weight of their new reality descended upon them, my family's expressions ranged from disbelief to anger to, finally, defeat. The carefully constructed dynamic they had maintained for years, with them in control and everyone else serving their needs, had been permanently shattered. Please, my mother whispered. A last attempt at manipulation. We're still your family. You can't do this to us. That's exactly why I must do this, I replied. Because real family doesn't exploit each other. Real family builds each other up. And it's time you learn the difference. The Lakewood construction site was already bustling when I arrived at 6:45 the next morning. I'd arranged for Jackson to set up a special orientation for my father and Logan, who would be starting their first day of repayment work. They arrived separately, my father in his truck at 7:05. Logan dropped off by Tasha at 7:23, already testing boundaries with his tardiness. You're late, I said to Logan as he shuffled toward me, eyes downcast, shoulders slumped. Traffic, he muttered unconvincingly. Next time, it's a penalty added to your debt. Time is money in construction. My father was already being fitted for a safety vest and hard hat by Jackson. his expression a mixture of humiliation and simmering resentment. He'd worked construction years ago before moving into sales, and clearly thought this assignment beneath him now. "Wallace, you'll be helping the framing crew today," I instructed, deliberately using his first name instead of Dad, to establish our new professional relationship. "Logan, you're on cleanup duty. Every nail, every scrap of wood, every piece of trash gets picked up." "Seriously? I'm just the garbage man," Logan protested. "Everyone starts somewhere," I replied evenly. "Prove you can handle basic responsibilities, and you'll earn more complex tasks." At the office across town, Brianna called to inform me that our mother had arrived wearing impractical heels and a designer blouse. "She's complaining about the office chair hurting her back," Brianna reported. "And she's already tried to delegate her filing work to Rita." Rita, my office manager, had been briefed on the situation and knew not to let my mother manipulate her. "Tell Mom that every task she refuses adds another day to her repayment period," I instructed Brianna. "And how are you doing?" There was a pause on the line. "I'm okay. I deserve this." I should have stood up to them about the crew's money. Her acknowledgement of responsibility was a promising sign. Perhaps not all family members were beyond redemption. Throughout that first week, the rehabilitation plan faced numerous challenges. My father constantly questioned orders from the site foreman, insisting he knew better ways to do the work. Logan called in sick on day 3 until I showed up at his apartment and physically drove him to the site. My mother tried to leave early every day until I installed a time clock specifically to track her hours. The living situation at Grandma's house had become tense but manageable. My parents were relegated to one bedroom, their access to common areas strictly limited. Logan stayed with Tasha most nights, unable to face the family dysfunction. Brianna, showing the most genuine remorse, asked Grandma's permission to help with dinner preparation and evening medication. Grandma herself was flourishing in her new role as site administrator. I'd set up a desk for her at the main office, where she managed timecards, including those of her own children, with meticulous attention. Years of having her capabilities dismissed had given way to newfound confidence, as workers respected her authority and sought her approval. "Mason, your father skipped his lunch break again," she reported during week 2. "Says he's trying to earn more hours, but he's just avoiding eating with the crew." "Noted in his file," I replied. "No unauthorized schedule changes." The transformation in family dynamics was remarkable to witness. My father, once the unquestioned patriarch who made decisions without consultation, now had to request permission for the simplest changes. My mother, accustomed to controlling the family narrative, found herself unable to charm or manipulate her way out of consequences. Logan's girlfriend Tasha broke up with him halfway through January, unwilling to support someone who had participated in such family treachery. This seemed to be a wake-up call for my brother, who began arriving early to work sites and volunteering for additional responsibilities. Brianna showed the most significant change. She returned the expensive clothes and accessories she'd purchased on the cruise, applying the refunds directly to the debt repayment. She asked thoughtful questions about the business, showing genuine interest in construction project management. "I never realized how much work goes into running a business," she admitted one evening as we reviewed the day's progress. "You make it look so easy." "Nothing about it is easy," I replied. "That's why taking my loan was so devastating. It wasn't just money, it was opportunity, growth, security." "I understand that now," she said quietly. "I'm so sorry, Mason." The most surprising development came from my parents' living situation. Forced to live within the constraints of the repayment plan, they had to sell their newer vehicles for more economical models and move into a small apartment to save money. The house remained in Grandma's name, with a portion of their wages going toward its maintenance. "It's humiliating," my mother complained during a mandatory family meeting 3 weeks into the plan. "Our friends are asking questions. People are talking. Perhaps you should have considered that before posting cruise photos purchased with stolen money, Grandma replied calmly. My father, his hands now rough from physical labor, had grown quieter with each passing day. The bluster and excuses had gradually given way to a simmering acceptance. How much longer will this continue? He finally asked. At the current repayment rate, approximately 9 more months. I answered, consulting the spreadsheet tracking their progress. And then what? We go back to how things were? No, I said firmly. Things will never go back to how they were. This isn't just about money, it's about trust, respect, and consequences. Those don't have an expiration date. As January turned to February, an unexpected shift occurred. The quality of my parents' work began to improve. My father's experience in construction, long dormant, resurfaced as he made useful suggestions that actually improved efficiency on job sites. My mother's organizational skills, when properly directed, helped streamline office operations. Even more surprising were the genuine apologies that finally came, not during the heat of confrontation, but quietly, during moments of reflection. I didn't see what we were doing to you, my mother said one evening as we closed the office. Taking and taking, always expecting more. You deserved better from us. Yes, I did. I agreed, neither rejecting her apology nor fully embracing it. Trust would take much longer to rebuild than a bank account. By the end of February, Carter Construction was actually benefiting from the additional help. Projects were completing ahead of schedule, client satisfaction ratings had improved, and new contracts were coming in. The loan that should have expanded my business had ultimately done so, just not in the way I had planned. Grandma moved into my Boulder condo, her health improving with proper medication adherence and reduced stress. She took up watercolor painting again, a hobby she had abandoned years ago when my parents deemed it a waste of money. I should have stood up to them sooner, she confessed as we shared dinner one evening. I let them bully me because I was afraid of being alone. You're not alone anymore, I assured her. And you never will be again. 6 months after that fateful Christmas homecoming, Carter Construction held its first company picnic. The summer sun shone brightly over the park where employees and their families gathered to celebrate our most successful quarter to date. I watched from the grill as my father expertly directed the setup of volleyball nets and picnic tables. He'd lost the softness around his middle, replaced by the lean muscle of consistent physical labor. More significantly, he'd lost the entitled attitude that had defined him for decades. Mason, where do you want the coolers? He called out, deferential in a way that still sometimes startled me. Wherever you think makes the most sense, Wallace, I replied, intentionally using his name rather than Dad. Our relationship had evolved into something different, not necessarily worse, just fundamentally changed. My mother approached with a stack of biodegradable plates. The designer clothes and manicured nails had given way to practical attire, and the capable hands of someone who now understood the value of genuine work. The client from the Riverside project is here, she informed me professionally. I've seated him with Jackson to discuss the potential expansion. I nodded my approval. 6 months ago, she would have tried to take credit for the Riverside project's success. Now she understood her role in our company's ecosystem. Across the park, Logan was organizing a softball game, showing unexpected leadership skills. His rehabilitation had been the most surprising. After Tasha left him, he'd fallen into a depression that initially made him even less reliable. But something shifted when he was assigned to mentor new laborers on a difficult hillside project. For perhaps the first time in his life, people were depending on him. And he rose to meet that responsibility. Hey, Mason, he called out. We need one more for even teams. You in? Maybe later, I replied, genuinely appreciating his inclusion but maintaining the professional boundary that had served us well. Brianna had undergone the most complete transformation. Her natural intelligence, previously channeled into social manipulation, now flourished in project management. She'd recently completed certification courses at the community college and had taken over scheduling for our expanding workforce with remarkable efficiency. "The Henderson contract is ready for your signature," she said, approaching with a tablet. "I've negotiated an additional 5% for the sustainable materials upgrade." "Well done," I said, reviewing her work. "You've saved us from ordering the wrong quantities, too." She beamed at the recognition. No longer the entitled young woman who had once treated my business loan as her personal vacation fund. Grandma was the heart of the gathering, holding court at a central table where employees stopped by to chat. Her health had improved dramatically with proper care and the dignity of meaningful work. She still managed the company's timecards and had expanded her role to include employee benefits administration, her natural nurturing finding appropriate expression. "Mason," she called, waving me over. "Tell everyone about the Boulder Heights project. It's your moment to brag a little." I smiled, appreciating her pride. The Boulder Heights development was our largest contract to date, the very expansion opportunity one had originally secured the loan to pursue. Through an ironic twist of fate, the family that had nearly destroyed my business had ultimately helped it grow beyond my initial projections. As the afternoon progressed, I found myself sitting with Reed, who had become our company's regular legal counsel. "If someone had told me 6 months ago that forcing your family to work for you would result in this," he gestured to the harmonious gathering, "I'd have called them delusional." It wasn't the work, I reflected. It was the accountability. For the first time in their lives, their actions had consequences they couldn't charm or manipulate their way out of. "Are you going to keep them on after the debt is fully repaid next month?" Reed asked. "Brianna, definitely. She's earned a legitimate position. Logan probably, though in a different capacity. My parents." I paused, still processing that complicated relationship. "We'll see. They're different people now." The transformation hadn't been easy or straightforward. There had been setbacks: my father's initial attempts to undermine site managers, my mother's passive-aggressive comments, Logan's periodic relapses into irresponsibility. Each had been met with firm consequences rather than the enabling they had come to expect. As the sun began to set and families gathered for the group photo, I reflected on that Christmas Eve that had changed everything. The empty house, the abandoned grandmother, the devastating note. Pain that had ultimately led to healing, betrayal that had forced growth. "Mason," my father approached hesitantly after the photos, "I wanted to give you something." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $3,500. "What's this?" I asked, confused. "The repayment plan is almost complete." "It's not for that," he said, looking uncomfortable but determined. "It's the money I was saving for a down payment on a boat. I realized I don't deserve luxuries while I still owe my son for the damage I caused." The gesture, small in the grand scheme but monumental coming from him, showed how far we had come. Later that evening, as employees departed and we cleaned up the park, Grandma linked her arm through mine. "You know what I've been thinking about?" she asked. "Next Christmas." The mention of Christmas still triggered a pang of hurt. "What about it? I think we should start a new tradition," she suggested. "Something completely different from before. Something that represents who we are now, not who we were." I considered this. "What did you have in mind?" "A company service project. Instead of exchanging gifts among ourselves, we donate time and resources to families in need. People who are truly struggling, not just looking for a Caribbean vacation." The idea resonated deeply. Transform the holiday that had revealed our family's dysfunction into an opportunity to help others. Use our hard-won wisdom to prevent other families from experiencing similar pain. "I think that's perfect, Grandma." 1 year after finding that devastating note, our family was unrecognizable, not just in circumstances but in fundamental character. My parents had learned humility and honest work. My siblings had discovered their own capabilities when privilege was stripped away. Grandma had reclaimed her power and dignity. And I had learned that sometimes the most painful betrayals lead to the most necessary transformations. As I looked around at what we had built from the ashes of that terrible Christmas, I realized that while my family had stolen my money, they had inadvertently given me something far more valuable: the courage to demand respect, the strength to enforce boundaries, and the wisdom to rebuild relationships on a foundation of accountability rather than exploitation. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have given your family a second chance through hard work, or would you have cut ties completely? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story of family betrayal and redemption resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Share this with someone who might be struggling with family boundaries. Sometimes the hardest lessons lead to the most powerful growth. Thank you for watching, and remember, true family builds each other up, never tears each other down.